Hi guys, welcome back once again. On this episode, we're going to listen to General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi when he educates us about the police ranks.
You have at your paragraph 48 at page 18 a diagram headed placement of top management. I'm going to request that it be put up, and perhaps you could walk us through that diagram for us to understand the top management, the sub-top management organogram. So if you could just speak to that organogram and guide us quickly through it.
Commissioners, the SAPS has got two designations in terms of the levels. We have those that are established in terms of the Constitution, which I spoke about earlier. That will be the National Commissioner, the Provincial Commissioners. As you see them on the top right corner, those 9 provinces are Provincial Commissioners. And on the extreme left, the badge that is standing out there with yellow and red and black, that is a Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation, which is commonly referred to as the Hawks, established in terms of the Act. That's why they are reflected on the structure. But immediately below the National Commissioner, those are the 3 at the bottom. They are the Deputy National Commissioners, which are structures established by the National Commissioner, the prerogative of the National Commissioner to create those structures. They may exist, they may not exist, depend who is the National Commissioner at the time. There is 3 currently, at times there are 5, or some other times there are 4. It depends on how the National Commissioner feels in terms of creating those structures that we see.
So if we understand you then, below the level of National Commissioner, there can be as many Deputy National Commissioners as the National Commissioner deems appropriate.
That is correct, Commissioner.
It's not prescribed to the National Commissioner as to how many there should be and what areas they should cover.
That is correct, Commissioner.
It will, perhaps while we are here, we take the opportunity, we'll deal with this further on in the statement. Insofar as the Deputy National Commissioner, the crime detection is concerned, your statement later on gives an understanding that that particular Deputy National Commissioner is actually responsible for 3 wider areas or responsibilities within SAPS. Can you just mention them, summarizing what each does, and we will make a note on this organogram.
Commissioner, the bottom right, if I can start there, of that structure is a corporate support, which is a general administrative that support the operations of the police. The policing in the main is controlled on the left, which is the middle block, and the left block. Left block is mainly about the visible policing, which is uniform branch, those men and women you see patrolling the streets. They are charged with the responsibility of preventing crime and interacting with communities and the likes. But the heartbeat of the justice system, where it starts in the main, is in the center, the middle block. That middle block controls the heartbeat of the South African Police Service. That is where the case docket is managed. That's where the criminal investigation is managed. You will have detective services that falls under that structure. You will have crime intelligence that fall under that structure. And you will have forensic services in the South African Police Service. So all 3 are the ones that are controlled in that structure, in that block.
And if briefly, just to, so we can orientate ourselves, what does the detective services deal with within SAPS, and equally the crime intelligence and, you said, forensics? If you could just give a brief description of what each function entails.
Commissioner, when the crime is committed, the first people that arrive at the crime scene, it's forensic service, who are responsible for the preservation of the crime scene and make sure that the evidence that is critical for investigation is collected. That's where you're going to find any evidence that might be used later in the investigation being fetched and be taken to the lab and get analyzed. And therefore, thereafter, the detective, which is crime investigation, will then take over the investigation, and with a further investigation that they collect to try and follow the pattern of what could have transpired that led into that crime. Any evidence that they collect, they will always share with forensic services in order to conduct analysis on it. But as they are looking for clues or the perpetrators that will have been involved in that particular crime, they are going to rely on crime intelligence, who help them to trace the suspect through their means of deployment of intelligence agencies and collecting of the information of the people that might share some information with regard to that crime. So that's what crime intelligence does. As is, they are the only one that are mandated with the responsibility of monitoring the criminal syndicates through their cell phones and tracking their movements. They really do covert operations that at times the public is not aware of, that we might discuss later. So, but that is in the main what the three does, the forensic, the detectives, as well as intelligence.
And it would appreciate it.
Commissioner, in the South African Police Service, we are categorized into two category of members in the service, and it is those that refer to them as non-commissioned officers. And then we have those that refer to them as commissioned officers. For the general public to understand, commissioners also to know, is that non-commissioned officers, when you see them in uniform, they would be wearing ranks that are hanging over their shoulders, not on top of their shoulders, but hanging on the side of their shoulders. They are non-commissioned officers. And that is basically the entry level into the South African Police Service, which is a first rank of a constable. That's where you enter in the service. And as you become a commissioned officer, you then put on your ranks, on your shoulders, above your shoulders, those stars that we see worn by police officers. And they are in different levels, with the highest being the national commissioner. So the entry level is a constable, and the highest level is the national commissioner. I'm talking about the national commissioner as the title that is carried in the Constitution. However, the regulation that was amended, it then introduced the general's titles. And so therefore we call the national commissioner a general. But it remains a national commission in terms of the Constitution. So it's a Constitution versus the police regulation in this regard. They are both applicable to us, Commissioner.
And on the extreme right, you list what you say is a form of address. That's an acceptable form of addressing each rank of the police force, of the police service, as set out in that diagram.
Yeah, that's correct. What you see written on this structure, unfortunately, as I said, commissioners, they're right on top. It's actually the national commissioner, which the rank given is the general, and the form of address, it's a general. And the picture you see on the screen, it just outlines the different ranks that we have and how we address them. So all those that we refer to as generals, lieutenant generals, major generals, and a general, when we address them, we call them generals. We don't use the first weight that precedes the general. And then, of course, the similar applies to the colonels. You will not call a lieutenant colonel or a colonel, we just address both of them as colonels. That's a form of address that we apply. And the non-commissioned officers are written on their shoulders as constable, sergeant, and warrant officers. So we address them as such.
Thank you.